Good morning, you guys, or good night, good evening, wherever you may be. Today we're just going to dive into a little bit more personable reasoning to why we may do certain things or what's stopping us from becoming so great at what we do. So if you can just sit back, grab you a cup of coffee, and let's just chat, okay? I'm a really big coffee lover. But, okay, so my generation, which is like 90s baby, sometimes 80s, mostly 90s though, we deal with a lot of anxiety. And a lot of times we don't know how to deal with it or where it comes from or even how to seek help. And what I have to say to that is I've been reading this book called From Panic to Power. And I'll list it down below in the description box if you're interested. But basically, it tells us that when we're in the face of adversity, when our heart is racing so fast and we're short of breath and our mind is racing, we're having these unforgettable thoughts, sometimes even unforgiving. We're in the face of anxiety. We're getting so anxious, we're getting so worked up that we can't control our next word or even our next movement because we're stuck in one place and we just can't figure out where to go. So when reading this book, it tells me that when you're in the face of adversity like so, you want to acknowledge what's going on first. You want to acknowledge it, because when you can acknowledge what's going on, you can then recognize it and slow your breathing down, slow your thoughts down, and accept that it's happening upon you. So if we don't acknowledge what's going on, a lot of times we'll avoid it and say, oh, this is normal, or, we'll say it is normal, of course, but we'll say, oh, this is so grand to me that I can't handle it. So when we avoid these problems, we're increasing our incapability to deal with them. So life is tough. Life hits you at so many different angles, but it's all in a matter of how you perceive life, and how you come about with life. Are you growing? Are you developing? Are you evolving? Or are you just going through the motions? And a lot of times I hear my peers, when I ask them, how is their mental, or how are they mentally, or I ask them, how is life going for them? How's life treating them? How are you treating life? And they'll be like, oh, I'm just ready to do the next thing. If we're in college, usually they're like, oh, I'm ready to graduate. Or if they're at work, I'm ready to get off. Or if they have an opportunity coming years later, they're like, oh, I'm ready to get this. And it's like, why are we wishing away our life so much, or so fast and so quickly and so readily that we don't want to even live anymore? You know what I mean? We're not living for our purpose. Now we're living to basically die quicker, if that makes sense, because you're wanting to go ahead so fast and so readily and so at the moment that you forget that you're not ready for that. There's a reason why it's called a year later, or a month later, or there's a reason why there's the time. Of course, time is an illusion, but there's a reason why time is broken down into different parts, so that way you can evolve with it, or at least feel. We're not going to dive into consciousness thinking just yet, because that'll get really deep and this video will run really long. But of course, time's an illusion, but it's broken up into make you think that make you aware of how you're evolving and how you're becoming over time. So I tell people, I'm like, instead of wishing your life away so much, why don't you just accept what's going on right now? Why don't you live for, whoever you serve, or live for yourself, or live for your parents, or, I mean, of course not live for your parents because everybody has their own life, but live for your purpose. Live for what you designated your life to be, instead of wishing or wanting so much, because we're greedy. We're very greedy human beings, and we don't like to reserve what we already have. We don't like to, and there's nothing, I'm not saying be complacent with who you are, be complacent with your surroundings, or be complacent with what you're given, but there's this big thing that's called acceptance, and accepting with what you are surrounding yourself with. A lot of times we think so much ahead because we're just nervous. We don't know what's to come. We don't know after college, are we going to get that job? We don't know after this job, am I going to get a next one? Am I going to, where our next food is going to come from half the time? We don't know whether we're going to get an opportunity to present it with self, or are we going to get that relationship that we desire? Are we going to thirst after love our whole entire life? We don't know, and it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know, and not to know everything, because if you knew everything, well, you've mastered life and there's no point of living, right? Because now you know which direction this is going to come from, and it'd be bland. Of course, you'd be walking around like you know everything, but again, it wouldn't have as much meaningful purpose as if you going through life just as a guinea pig. And we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And when we're talking about being aware of, what's going on and how we're treating ourselves, we need to really focus on our mental stability. I'm not going to dive too much into one thing or to the other, but I do want to bring awareness to the things that you are controlling your life with, because it's important. And if you don't recognize it in the face of adversity, then you're more likely to fall apart or fall off, as some would say. So it's really about taking not necessarily control, but because that's what we want to do so much. We want to control everything, right? But so it's not really about control. It's about appreciating, accepting, having patience, growing with every second, and learning. So that's why now I am so thankful for just even being in the presence of you guys, because I'm able to say, you know what, today is today, and I'm going to live just for today. And today I'm going to make the best out of it. I'm going to be very productive. I'm going to do all that I can. And I'm not going to think about tomorrow, because tomorrow will come if God permits, So it's like, I'm going to live for today. I'm going to do all that I can so that I am serving my purpose, and it being purposeful. I want to be full at the end of the day. Not literally, but mentally I want to be full, and spiritually I want to be full, and I want to be wholesome at the end of the day. I don't want to be like, oh, I have to wait till I'm 25 till I feel like a grown up, or till I feel secure about myself. I have to be 30, 50 until I know that I'm a woman, until I know that I can face anything. I just have to stand up for myself. And we have as women, as young women especially, we have that hard time sticking up for what we believe in. And it's not about necessarily protesting or going to the limbs to express ourselves, but we have a hard time saying what we mean to people that we find most valuable or most of importance. So with saying all of that, with basically, we're causing all of this distraction, all of this tension to ourselves. How do we heal from it? How do we get better? And I have the answer for you. It starts with you. It starts with, and I always go back to looking in the mirror, just because I feel it's so important to look at yourself and understand, and not even look at yourself literally, but hypothetically, self-reflect a lot and understand why you do the things that you do. I'm actually kind of getting a little emotional right now because I feel myself connecting so much with my purpose in life, and I feel myself connecting with God and my universe and my innerverse. You know, I feel myself connecting so much because it's like for so long we're, as young people, we're misunderstood. We're taken advantage of. We have this mistaken identity in us sometimes, because we don't believe in ourselves anymore. We don't um, talk to ourselves anymore. We don't comfort ourselves anymore. We want other people to do that for us, and then when they don't do it right, we're depressed, and we're very deep inside, and we have very crazy thoughts and rambling thoughts. I mean, it just goes. The list goes on. Um, and I feel so connected because finally I feel a place right now in this moment where I can say I'm accepting of who I am. But also, if I didn't like who I was or I didn't like something about myself, I am slowly changing that about me. Especially when it comes to my emotions and how I grasp towards people. Because before, I would say I'm really working on, my emotional condition, because sometimes I'll go gravitate to things too fast, or I'll, leave something that's very important in the dusk. So it's like I feel connected because it's like I'm finally learning why it's important to learn yourself and why it's important to self-reflect so that you can feel the utmost respect for yourself. A lot of young people, we go around, we don't respect ourselves. We're throwing ourselves away, whether it's our mind, our mental, our body, however you want to confirm it, but we're throwing ourselves away each day, and we're not um, self-reflecting enough to where we can say, hey, it's okay to be of a certain way, but if it doesn't agree with who you are, don't do it. You don't have to do something just because somebody else does it, or just because somebody else feels comfortable doing it. You know what I mean? It starts with believing again. Like, can we take the time to believe in ourselves again and know that we are powerful human beings, spiritual beings, if that's what you want to call it, because we are. And it's important that we just understand that we can do anything. We can strengthen ourselves. We can, prosper. But we just have to slow down our mental. We have to slow down our mind. We have to slow down our thoughts. It starts there. When I talk about the healing process, it starts with slowing down, with understanding, okay, this is the world, and sometimes it's more than often black and white. The sky is blue, my car is black, the shades are green. You know, learning the different aspects of life will help you understand who you are. If you don't know who you are, how can you benefit someone else? How can you comfort someone else? How can you love someone else? How can you withstand someone else? Because you're not all together yourself. And it's not to say that you have to be, again, 30 years old to figure yourself out. Start now, and it starts with you. So, this has been a time of Treehouse Talks. Thank you guys so much for joining me with a cup of coffee. If you have any thoughts, ideas, need help with, just learning who you are, self-reflecting, and you can't figure it out just yet, or just stuck on this one thought of why, let me know down in the comments below, and let's start a conversation. Let's start a healthy conversation. Let's get each other going, because like I always like to say, if we're not helping each other grow, we're depleting our human race. Please remember that, because it is helpful. And again, like this video, don't forget to subscribe and share all the love you so shall wish. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great day, night, wherever you are.